Welcome to the entrepreneurship. We are X.T.C.
I'm Xaulanda.
I'm Tristan.
And I'm Chris.
As an entrepreneur starting and growing your business, you may have a destination, but the journey getting there can be a trip. We want to be your travel companions and inject a dose of ecstasy as we explore real life conversations about navigating the world of the entrepreneurship in the US and the Caribbean. How you guys doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Great.
All right, Chris, you got all the sensors ready. You got everything ready for us because last week Shalana got on my nerves, and I know you had a lot of editing to do. And I just want you to be ready for this because I'm starting it with the. It's not even a disclaimer, Shalana. There's no women in this. I just want you to know there's no women in this because you're the only woman for me, Shalana, and that's how I'm
Just as
gonna
long
put it.
as you're staying diverse aware, I'm fine with it.
I'm from the Caribbean. How much more diverse could we get? So today's topic and discussion is: Are entrepreneurs made or are we born that way? What do you guys think? Right off the top, I'm not even gonna go to Shalanda. I'm gonna hit it to my dog. Let's go, Chris.
I think that's a good question. I think some people are definitely uh, made to be entrepreneurs, but I think there's a balance of nature versus nurture, and I think both of those components can sometimes play into it. So whether you're born with it or decide later on, or are born with it but decide not to do it, I think a lot of people take different paths.
It's interesting. I like how you said that. If you're born with it but decide not to do it, reminds me of stories of blessings where oh no, I'm not even gonna get into these stories with Chris because you know how Chris get. He's gonna have a proverb for me by the time I'm done. OE with the little pebble creates big ripples. Shalom, hit me with something.
Well, actually, I think it's a combination of both. And when you look at the research, Dr. Albert Bandura, who is the father of social cognitive theory, yes, I'm putting on my PhD hat here, Tristan,
All
states that we are both products and producers of our environment. And I think
right.
that stands true for entrepreneurs as well, right? Our environment definitely helps to steer us in a particular direction. But because we are also producers, we're kind of born with some of those traits, right? So it's
Mm.
definitely a combination of both that play hand in hand with each other.
All right.
See, I'm, bring,
one,
I'm
one
bringing
point
the
for
deja
Shalonda.
vu,
Let's go,
right?
Oh,
Tristan.
come on. No, that's too early. That's not even fair. She already got a ding. I should have had a ding with the looks and the, oh,
Right.
let me just catch it. Popopula. Say that again. No, I'm playing. So, welcome, welcome. This is season one, series two. And what this section is about is mindset and motivation. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely agree with that bomb that Shalana dropped on us just now. I love the words product of our environment and definitely how it is. With Chris kind of reference again the mindset. So we got motivation from Shalana and what was it from Chris? What was Chris? I'm waiting for the mindset. I'm still waiting for that quote that you're gonna drop. So what I want you guys to just keep in mind, and here's a quick fact. Last year, according to the US Census Bureau, um, about 5.4 million new businesses were filed in the US. Now, before the pandemic, we were looking at 3.4 million, right? So that definitely goes into, I want to say, I call it, that survival mode, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now we got hit with a pandemic, and it was a crazy start to me because during a pandemic is where I would think that we would kind of like recess. I'm not going to take any risks. This is happening. However, it looked like it created these situations where we have to eat. So, what do we do in these situations? A lot of us decided to start our new business. Now, the interesting fact about that, or the interesting thing about it, is that when I when I saw it, I was like, it kind of makes sense too because we were giving out a lot of federal monies for businesses and a lot of aid. So I was like, maybe they just started these businesses for the startup money. However, I can't prove it, and we'll have yet to see. And I think we got to give it about another year, where we'd be able to like look at the stats and be like, man, out of these 5.4 million businesses, um, we're back down to
Right.
3 point, you know, whatever. So that's what it is. Like that was one of the train of thoughts that kind of went through my mind. However, um, it also goes into simple business models, supply and demand. So now where your larger companies are laying off, now there's a lot of need for smaller companies to pick up certain slacks. I think we had a lot more catering businesses that kind of popped up. So a lot more smaller. I don't want to call them service businesses because I don't want you to think about like cleaning businesses. But they've like the DoorDash is picked up. You see what I'm saying? A lot more of those supply and demand
Delivery.
delivery services picked up in their
Mhm.
businesses. A lot more people just I don't want to say just ventured out into it, but now
Mhm.
given our situation, it created a new mindset, Chris, in which now we're looking at we have to survive. We have to do that something more. So is that something that we're born with? That intuition that says we got to do something more? Or is it something that's nurtured by our environment that's saying, hey, things are changing and now I have to find a way? I'll
You
let
want
you
to
know.
jump in, Chris, or you want me to take this one?
No, I like when Chris goes first. Someone give Chris, you know what? No,
I
that's
don't.
kind of nice
Shaunda
because I
looks
gave
ready to
Chris
chop at the
first the
bite,
last
though.
time. Go
um.
ahead, Solana, hit. Oh,
Oh, yeah, no,
sorry.
no, yeah, no. We'll let Shaunda go. Go ahead. Go
Um,
ahead.
Thank you, Chris. You're such a gentleman. Let the lady go first, Kristen. Um, what I would say is, I know that you're saying the motivation was very much external because of COVID and people's need to survive, especially when they were being laid off from a job, right?
Right.
That definitely was a motivator, but I also think that the pandemic stirred an intrinsic motivation in a lot of us. When COVID happened and we had that shutdown, people instantly were taken off of the rat race, Ferris wheel or the treadmill that they were constantly on, seeking to get more and more and more, to do more and more and more. And we literally had to stop. And in that pause, right? Not a permanently halted, like we talked about in a previous episode,
Uh-huh.
but in that pause, it actually gave people space, time, and capacity to think. And in that time of thinking, I think a lot of people looked at where their life was at that point of in time, particularly working for organizations, where at any moment that organization could let you go. So no longer that illusion of job security kind of blew up in smoke. People started saying, okay, if I'm working for an organization for 30 something years and they could just let me go like that, right? Because of some external circumstance, is what is my purpose in life? What is it that I want to focus on? And so I think that intrinsic motivation, which is something that you're born with, got fueled. Make
Mm.
sense?
Makes a lot of
And
sense.
so,
Makes a lot of sense.
yeah, and because of COVID, the market shifted. A lot of people were pivoting, and it opened up opportunities for people to be creative, to innovate, and to start new businesses. So it's almost like, the years before COVID was toiling the soil, and then COVID allowed people to plant the seeds,
Mm.
to start to water them, and to start to grow.
Let's catch that mic right now. Let me see. Don't drop it.
I don't have a mic drop yet, so.
But no, Shalana, I definitely agree, and that's where it kind of goes to where I felt like during COVID, well, I want to say I definitely agree with what it is that you're saying. However, I think just think during COVID it created more of a nurture aspect where it like you're saying that force was external. It wasn't that internal force to me. That the internal force is what it is that you're born with, but it's like a
Mhm.
hidden talent. So we kept it buried. We didn't really want to do anything much because we were comfortable, and that's why it is
Mhm.
we became entrepreneurs from the first series, like we were saying, is that we wanted to change something. There's
Hmm.
something that's going on that we want to change, right?
Mhm.
The That's our fundamentals of just being an entrepreneur. Whatever it is, I don't like it. I'm gonna do something different, and that's where it is. I thought about it, and it hit me where it was like, you know what? It seems more of a nurture situation. However, however, not but, however, it seems like
Tristan, however, is just a fancy way to say but.
no,
Okay?
no, no, no. Because when you say but, you go in the
It's
complete opposite way.
no, when you say but, you cancel out what you said before.
But
When you
that's
say however, it's a
you see, you
fancy way
just
of
called me. I was
canceling
like,
out
but
what you
that's
said
what I'm
before.
saying.
I know. That's my
however,
point.
however
It's a
means it's
and. It's
included.
a
It's
and. It's a
inclusion.
and. It's an and, my friend. So let's start again.
And and it just brought out the fact that, like you were saying, I feel
Mhm.
like it's just like our latent power that we really
Mhm.
wanted to do something, and now it just gave it that extra fuel, in
Mhm.
which we're now doing what it is. I want to say that we truly love things that we're passionate about. Like in doing the research for this, I found like it was a lot of catering companies that
Mhm.
opened up, and it was not even just catering because it's catering delivery companies that came
Mhm.
about because now they're
People gotta
preparing meals.
eat.
Yep.
Right, we're
People gotta
preparing
eat.
meals, and we need to get them to these. I want to say to. I hate the term shut-ins because we weren't completely shut in during the pandemic, but it gave us that feel.
Speak
We
for
were
yourself.
still.
Speak for
Wait,
yourself.
we,
I spent 3 months in quarantine in Florida in my townhouse. Yes. Um, Quarantining in the Virgin Islands is drastically different than quarantining in the mainland. Okay. That's one of the reasons I decided to
mm,
come home after as soon as I could come home because it's a little bit more, even though they're more stringent with like mask mandates and things like that, because we're on an island and we have the nice weather and you can go hiking out in nature and not see anybody.
right,
We have those outdoor activities where you can go to the beach and isolate. You can
right.
still have a level of normalcy, but at least for me, and Chris can chime in,
Yep.
I spent 3 months in Florida in my townhouse by myself, and the only people that I had any human interaction with was Instacart for my groceries, the
Mm,
delivery people for the food that I ordered, and thank God for Volkswagen because my car needed to be serviced at one point in time. And they came, picked it up, serviced it, and drove it right back
wow.
into my garage.
Nice.
Yeah, talk about nice customer service. Yeah. So I think our experiences of quarantining are very different
Different.
depending on where that happened.
Hmm.
And
Right.
also, it also varied based on whether or not you believed that COVID was really a thing
Mm,
Hmm.
yeah,
and
that's
wanted to
true.
take the
True.
necessary precautions to protect yourself and your loved ones,
Right.
right?
Yeah, because here in the Caribbean, I think it hit home. It was real, real. Where I think even if part of the younger community didn't get vaccinated, we were advocating that our older community definitely do. But the one thing I said, not think, the one thing that we did handle pretty well was we stay maxed up. We're a community that embraces all the time, Chris. Hugs, kisses is that's what we do.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
we adapted
And that's
quickly.
what we couldn't do. Hmm.
Right, we adapted quickly. The fist bump, the little daps, that became the thing. It surprised me one day when I had an aunt, and I saw her out at the bank, and I was like, I just don't even know what to do anymore. And she was like, it's
Hmm.
okay. And she put out her little elbow for me. I was like, oh, all right, auntie, I see you. I see you. But it definitely plays to that. Chris, I'm gonna kick it to you, and I'm gonna see if you give me a little nurture idea. Nature idea. I'm sorry.
Nature. No, I think definitely agree with what both of you guys were saying, and for me, I think and Shalonda, you were kind of touching on this, but people's um, fight or flight responses were triggered,
Mhm.
and that comes back to the nature versus nurture. But I know a lot of people who handled the pandemic and being quarantined very differently. Um,
Mhm.
uh, I myself, at least for the first couple of weeks, definitely put on a little bit of weight. I took a kind of like hurricanes here in Florida. You buy all this food to prep for it. The hurricane never comes, so you just sit in your apartment and you eat all the food. um,
Freshman 15.
exactly. But then when I did start, seeing other people again, I saw some other people who like went the other direction. All of a sudden, they were in incredible shape and just doing things or for their businesses and what have you. And I think a lot of it was just how you handled the situation. I mean, whether it was out of boredom or necessity,
Mhm.
being stuck at home, and yes, you do have those, the stimulus checks, which again may be covering necessities, but if for other people that was additional income that might have been the seed money to start their passion project
Business.
finally.
True.
But I think the big thing again is just how it was handled, and I think people shifted throughout time as quarantines lasted longer than initially anticipated for many. And like myself, I mean, we kind of were my wife and I were waiting for it to blow over a little bit, and then it didn't. And then so we kind of, not that we weren't taken seriously from the beginning, but we were starting to adapt and adjust our lifestyle. And my business. I mean, I took
Right.
as a video production company, I had just made a huge purchase in January of that year to have a new, camera to go out in the field and start shooting. And then all of a sudden, I have nowhere to go and shoot. So it,
Mhm.
it became a matter of, transferring everything online. And that was a whole uh,
Mm.
another, amount of purchases when I didn't know if I was going to get a good return on it or, again, how long COVID would last. So I think it's just for many people, if you had the time, the resources, and the circumstances, and it did trigger a need to do something different. I think a lot of people took advantage of that, and for others, and understandably so, COVID was just very taxing, and being
Honest.
quarantined was very taxing for people, and many of them, I think, may have suffered or not taken those opportunities to do something different.
Mhm.
It definitely was. What you talking about the investments made? I definitely made some investments too. I just never really realized how I pivoted.
Hmm.
Part of the reason being is because I'm still chasing some passion projects. Some of them got scaled back, pushed back, um, to a level I never anticipated. Um, I never thought that it would have been hard to schedule some interviews during the pandemic. To like how it turned out being. But you said
Mhm.
something very real in between there, Chris. And this is your nugget that I got. And
Mhm.
it goes back to us. And like we said, this is about real conversations. So the one thing I would have never, ever, ever, ever think and or see myself doing was a podcast.
Mm.
And look at how the pandemic has changed that. I worked on projects where I somewhat set them up for other people.
Mhm.
Thought about doing
Mhm.
it. NPR does this. I don't want to. I want to call it the tiny desk. NPR was
Mhm.
pushing for giving seed money to start new podcasts. I applied for that like two times before. It was kind of unsuccessful. They kind of did it in rounds. It was
Mhm.
unsuccessful. I was like, fine. You came up with your own promo pitch, the whole nine. So I worked on them, but I just never saw myself actually completely being a part of them. So with you saying
Which is
that,
kind of cool about this project, though, because both of you, Tristan, and you, Chris, are used to being behind the
Yep.
camera,
right,
not in
Yep.
front of the camera.
right, right, and
Mhm.
that's the beauty of it. Like for this project and how it brought us together. You see what I'm saying? It was
Mhm.
a. I don't think without the pandemic we may have come together. We would have collaborated like this. We're accustomed of working with Xaulanda and doing different things, but before the pandemic, before her I want to her oh my gosh, what she call it,
Watch
quarantine.
your
That don't
words,
sound like a
Tristan.
quarantine.
Watch
It
your
sounded
words, Tristan.
like oh, it sounded like something out of the that horror movie, man. Like it didn't sound like a 3 months straight and no real interaction. Like, when I saw Shalana, she was like, "Yeah, I came back home." I was like, "Baby, where have you been?" Like, we've been in touch, but I was like, but it just, with you saying that, it just brought that different aspect home to me,
Mhm,
as to look at what entrepreneurs are doing. Look at how we were and have been able to pivot, to create new forms, take on new ventures, um, and learn from it. So a couple of things I want to share really quickly with you guys, from my notes, is that I don't care if it's a nurture versus nature approach. What it is that both aspects have strengths, and strengths in which we need to learn from. So what I learned is that from the nurture aspect, you learn to apply yourselves unconditionally. That goes back to what we spoke about, endurance. And you need a strong mindset in order to do that. So, what nurturers tend to do is that they find mentorship, they network, and they take advice, right?
mhm,
So, for me, what I've done and what I found I did is the mentorship. I've acknowledged that we do need mentors, and I started to acknowledge people in my past who could have played mentorship roles. Your network, that's Shalana. She expanded my network by introducing me to you, Chris. And I mean, we
Likewise.
really hit it off, and we started to grow in this aspect. We started, our idea didn't last 3 months, if that. Like, these conversations were like this, it would just hit and go, hit and go, hit and go, right? That was network and advice. When I started, I said, I trust you, Chris. And I really mean it. And I trust Shalana too. And it's because even though I'm working and I do work within this field, I trust you enough to, I don't say hold your end, but I trust you to guide me. So in that way, when I say certain things wrong and I do things that aren't completely correct, you be like, "Yo, Tristan, look, you messed up on that open. We're definitely gonna do it. I know it's the 20th time. You're getting tired. Shalana, hit that coffee pot. We're gonna get this going one more time." And that's what it is. So for me, I don't know if I'm a nature versus nurture, but that's what I took from the nurture aspect. Now, for the nature aspect, what it is that we have amazing traits, right? So in the nature, it's like being born with certain personalities and aptitudes, right? I am a talker. I've been talking for about 20 minutes. Tell me about ants. I'll talk to you about ants. I'll do whatever it is. Shalana is amazing at writing. I'm always going to tease her about it. Tell Shalana you want, like, I only need 2 sentences for this. You got to a 2,000 word essay talking about how the ant leg is proportionately correct.
It's
Um, just so
me. I'm
different things like
sorry.
that. you know, and it goes back to, again, series one, where we spoke about applying. Like, when you're born with certain talents, um, we just need to learn when to
Mhm.
apply, and not the when, Chris, um, and not just the why. Like, so we need the right time. We need to learn how to apply it and learn when to apply it. So we had the skills before,
How and how.
and how,
Yep.
and how.
Mhm.
So we had the skills before. We thought about it. This is what we were passionate about. And then the pandemic hit. And then we learned, you know what? This is the right time to do a podcast, Tristan. You've been doing everything else. This is the right time. So what are you going to take? What are the skills that I'm going to bring to the table? Well, I'm a talker. We're going to get through it. I'm going to argue with Shalana. I'm going to bless Chris. I'm going to wait for Chris to hit me with a nugget a little later on. Um, and that's just it. But And when you apply it in the right space, this podcast, the right space, it builds and it creates and it breeds success. And part of it is also because this is what it is that we're passionate about. So I'm not gonna allow Chris to hit us with a nugget. I'm gonna hit you with a nugget. My mom always told me a man is known by the company he keeps.
Hmm.
And I thought it was cool. Like, mama, you always say that, whatever. Oh, you know, now it hits home. This is a company I keep. These are my fellow entrepreneurs. These are the people I trust. These are the people that mentor me. These are the people I look to for advice. And as other fellow entrepreneurs, what I want you to do is that we might have the mindset sometimes we need a little motivation. Um, and we just need to not, I don't want to say find the right space, however, create the right space for whatever it is that we want to do. So on that note, this wraps up another conversation on the entrepreneur strip. We want to thank our team, collaborators, and especially you, our listeners, for making this trip possible. So visit our website, theentrepreneursstrip.com. That's entrepreneurs with an S. And
Mhm.
subscribe to receive our blogs today. And until our next trip, be well and take care. Love y'all.
Mhm.